After a demoralizing loss to West Virginia in Morgantown again, where do the Bears go from here? This is Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Baylor. I'm Drake Toll from Sports Illustrated's Inside the Bears. Thank you for making Locked On Baylor your first listen every single day. If you haven't already, go ahead and click subscribe on the YouTube channel, whether you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you come from. Click subscribe on YouTube. If we get to 1,000, things go really well. Speaking of things going really well, things went really well offensively for Baylor on Thursday, not so much defensively. We're going to get into a lot of that. But first, I kind of want to peel back the curtain a little bit and be honest with you guys. First and foremost, I don't want to sound when I come on these podcasts like I am trying to talk down or speak down on Baylor fans or the team in general. I would consider myself to be a pretty critical person. I'll tell you why I am. I have the biggest pet peeve when it comes to sports media members or those of us who cover teams, talk about teams, just being so infatuated with a person, with a program, with something that they're blinded to what's true, what's on the field, the product that's out there. I cannot stand when hosts of podcasts or radio shows or writers will go and coddle teams that are getting their teeth kicked in and week out. I'm not even saying that Baylor is, but I want to be as real as possible with you. Now, sometimes that may sound cynical, but I am a senior at Baylor right now. This is my last campaign, my last rodeo to go to Baylor football games and feel the luster of being a student on campus. This is as connected as I will be to Baylor and student life for the rest of my life. So I want nothing more than Baylor to win these football games. And I'm trying to be as level-headed as possible when they don't. But I don't want to feed you a bunch of, hey, everything is great. The sky's blue. The grass is green. These guys, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is right there. I don't want to be that. But I don't want to be overly critical, too, because I become this cynical person that's upset that Baylor's bad on my senior year, during my senior year of college. So merging those two is where I pick up with West Virginia and what Baylor looks like the rest of this stretch. I have so much confidence in Jeff Grimes and the offense, Eric Mateos and the offense. I did from the jump. This was never a show, unlike some and many on Twitter who have gone out there and said it, that ridiculed Jeff Grimes to a T. There was the play. It is literally like the play that sticks out to me this season where Baylor gets a safety against Oklahoma State by pitching the ball into the end zone. And I still think that's boneheaded. There are plays to call out, but this is certainly not the fault, what's happening right now, of Jeff Grimes and Eric Mateos and the offense. Instead, I turn squarely to the defense. The defense against Oklahoma State. Blake Shapen threw for 345 yards in a home game against Oklahoma State, and Baylor lost. Against West Virginia, Blake Shapen in the first half had 326 yards, almost 300 yards in the first half alone, with 2 touchdowns on 14 for 22. Kyron Drones comes in, goes 7 for 14, not pristine, but still throws 95 yards, 7 yards of completion, decent enough, a touchdown and an interception. The interception effectively nullified because JT Daniels gave it right back to Baylor afterwards. Baylor finished a combined 421 passing yards and 3 touchdowns on Saturday. 169 rushing yards is decent enough to win you a football game, especially when your passing game is that solid. So then how does Baylor lose in Morgantown again? I want you to think back to the Big 12 championship game last season. And how also today's episode is titled, Is There Hope for Baylor? So I'm sorry I'm starting with so many hopeless points here. Last year's Big 12 title game, what happens to Gary Bohannon? Well, he goes out a couple weeks before. He's not ready to go for the Big 12 title. Blake Shapen's got to start it. What does the defense do? They step up big time, understanding that a backup quarterback is your new starter. So they reach a different level to help carry the team to a Big 12 title win. What's more, Blake Shapen gets hurt in that game. When he gets hurt, his shoulder's so bummed that he can't play in the Sugar Bowl eventually come a month later. So obviously it wasn't the best idea to have him out there. The defense had to do what? They had to step up. Who won the Big 12 championship game for Baylor? It was their defense. So everybody in America goes on this whole entire, there's from Josh Pate to the folks at ESPN and 24/7 and Sports Illustrated going on this tour of how much they love Dave Aranda and Dave Aranda's defensive scheme. Coming into this season, what do we talk about all offseason? Blake Shapen, probably going to be a solid quarterback. The offensive line is going to be really good. The receivers might not be great. The running back room has a ton of question marks. But what doesn't have question marks? Baylor's defense. And what was it on Saturday that gave away this game? It's still Baylor's defense. Squarely Baylor's defense. Someone commented and said, it looks like Phil Steele is back. What is going on with this team? It looks like Phil Bennett is back. It looks like they started naming of these atrocious coaches from Baylor's past. Not atrocious people, but coaches that were just hoof. And I am puzzled because Baylor has, listen to this list of names. Dylan Doyle, Mark Milton, Devin Lemire, Christian Morgan, Al Walcott, Gabe Hall, Devin Neal, Bryson Jackson, TJ Franklin, Matt Jones, Siaki Ika, Will Williams, Garmin Randolph, Cole Maxwell, Snacks Johnson, Jackie Marshall, Jackson Player, Brooks Miller, Tyrone Brown. I mean, there are a ton of the cast of characters there is wild, and the supporting cast is wild as well. That list of names that I just fed to you allowed 40 points against West Virginia, and when it mattered most in the second half, couldn't get a stop to save their lives to win a football game. I don't want to sound overly critical, but where is the disconnect? What is it when you have that list of names? That amount of guys you have your old leaders. You have your Jackson Player who may not have been in the program, still a guy who's a senior-laden vet. You have Siaki Ika, who has been in the program as an older guy. You have Garmin Randolph has been here so long. Gabe Hall's been here so long. Christian Morgan is a senior leader. Not to mention, and I haven't even gotten yet to Jackson Player, who's been here what's going on? Did I say Dylan Doyle? By the way, did I say Matt Jones? What's going on? Davis talked about issues in the locker room. If that's your list of names, and there are no leaders to step up and take control of the locker room, what hope is there? That list of names is your hope. That may not make a lot of sense, and I'm trying to convince myself a little bit here too. But that list of names is the reason that Baylor still has an opportunity to win every game they play in the rest of this year. There are so many guys that have elite potential in this defense to step up and be the next Terrell Bernard, the next Jalen Petrie. Heck, I love Al Walcott. Dylan Doyle has stepped up and been solid the last few weeks, especially. Matt Jones. What more can you get out of Matt Jones? Or Siaki Ika, Gabe Hall. Where can you start getting sacks? Those guys are still there. A lot of them, granted, a little dinged up, mostly healthy. They're still in the program, and you still have the opportunity for those guys to step up. Now, who are they stepping up against? That's what I want to take a look at. You want hope. You got the guys to do it. What do they go up against the next couple of weeks, and how can they put together some wins, and what really is the best case scenario for this team? But first, I got to tell everybody at home about SimpliSafe. Real quick, SimpliSafe is, the numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen SimpliSafe home security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. SimpliSafe, they protect you with cutting-edge security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. And I love it because it helps me now feel like my car is not going to get broken into any longer. 24/7 professional monitoring. SimpliSafe's agents will call you the moment there's a threat. They'll call first responders as well. HD security cameras, so you can see the folks that are trying to breach your home, and even hazard sensors that they detect fires, floods, other threats to your home as well. So right now, SimpliSafe, customize the perfect system for your home by going to simplisafe.com/lockedoncollege. Save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan. Give us your first month free. That'll give you your first month free. simplisafe.com/lockedoncollege to learn more. There is no safe like SimpliSafe. All right, the defense. I listed off that list of names of guys. Baylor's offense. is certainly not bad either. I don't know if you guys saw Gavin Holmes had a historic day on Thursday night against West Virginia. Blake Shapen played really well before going out. If Shapen stays in the game, I made the comment on Twitter that a lot of people got very upset with, by the way, that if Blake Shapen stays healthy, nothing really changes, that his injury didn't lose Baylor the game. I stand by that for the most part. I understand where there's pushback there, but I'm very confident in Blake Shapen, or if you end up getting, at least for this week, a backup quarterback in Kyron Drones, I'm confident in him. He looked fairly solid until you put him in the 2-minute drill, which is just tough for anybody to do, much less a guy who has very little to no elite playing time. And I love how Hal Presley stepped up. Monterey Baldwin, so solid. Richard Reese, obviously. Squirrel Williams banged up again, but if you get him back, please, at some point in his career healthy, then he's a threat. Quaylen Jones as well. The offense has the tools. The defense has the big names. If it all comes together, you get Kansas this week. Oh! You want good news? Baylor's next football game is against Kansas. Yes. That is not like old Kansas, not even old, like last year Kansas. This is a much better Kansas team. Being at quarterback is someone that I love to watch play football. They gave Oklahoma a late run, a little backdoor cover they were 11-ish point dogs in that game against OU on Saturday, and they found a way to at least make things vaguely interesting in the end because I think Kansas's offense is elite. So now is your big test for your defense to step up. But their defense, Kansas's defense is bad. I mean, they are bad. One of, if not the worst in the Big 12. And the Bears have an opportunity to exploit that this week. If they were coming off of a loss to West Virginia on the road, going to Austin this week, to Fort Worth this week, even to Lubbock this week, we're packing our bags. I already told you that I was packing it up if we lost to West Virginia, but I'm not now. I'm unpacking it because we got to have faith. George Michaels. Brett Michaels, something like that. Got to have faith. So the Kansas spot couldn't come at a better time. After that, Baylor goes to Texas Tech. I know that game might scare you because it scares me. I would hope that game scares you because Joey McGuire and his Tech guys are going to be ready to go. But the good news is, of the 6 games remaining for Baylor, of the 6 games, I am of the belief that the easiest 2 are the next 2, which is the best spot to be in when you've now fallen to 3-3 and need some kind of pick-me-up. You get an 11 a.m. home game against Kansas. Then you got Texas Tech. You go on the road to Texas Tech, where you haven't won in like 30 years because they played the game in Arlington for so long. But that is a very winnable game. If Baylor was playing UT in Austin this weekend, I would say it's not a winnable game. This is it. Gloom and doom. It's over. However, they're not. They get Kansas, which they are 10-point favorites. They go on the road against Tech. And I think if Baylor beats Kansas, they're probably either in a pick-em or a 1-point favorite against Texas Tech. And again, I did say if Baylor beats Kansas, because Kansas could win this game. However, I like Baylor in this spot because it's still Kansas. Their defense sucks. Their offense, really good. They're going to get their 31 points this weekend. Baylor's offense, though, is going to get their 45. That's going to be a huge boost to the offense. The defense can start trying to get things going. Then Texas Tech, the next week, is an offense that's really not that great. Past that, you get Oklahoma. So here's an even wilder mention. Of the next 6 games, the 3 easiest come in succession with Kansas, Texas Tech, and Oklahoma. You get OU on the road. It's an OU offense, Dylan Gabriel. Similar to Kansas, I don't think Baylor can stop Oklahoma's offense. I don't. Dylan Gabriel, as good as he looked last week, and as good as he's looked since he's healthy, Oklahoma's going to be tough to deal with. But their defense, when I told you Kansas has the worst defense in the Big 12, the only team that's possibly worse is Oklahoma. The idea, they're asking the same questions too. A lot of Baylor fans are going, wow, we have Dave Aranda. He's like the defensive guru. How is our defense bad? Brent Venables has been this like mastermind of defense at Clemson for forever. Comes to Oklahoma, and they have a historically bad defense, historically bad team. They knock off Kansas last week. Their defense looked just abysmal. So now Baylor is able to face Kansas, bad defense. Texas Tech, bad offense. Oklahoma, bad defense. There's your opportunity to win 3 straight. If Baylor wins the next 3, if the Bears are 6-3, teetering on the idea of being ranked again, the season flips. And they've been there before, where Baylor starts out, was it 4-3 in 2012, maybe 4-3 in 2011, one of those seasons, and Baylor goes on to start win a bowl game at least. And now fans are questioning, can Baylor make a bowl game? Well, they're going to. They're going to beat Kansas. They're going to beat Texas Tech. They're going to beat Oklahoma. What do you want when you're on a 6-3 tear? Certainly not, I think, the toughest team left in the Big 12 in Kansas State. Baylor's already played Oklahoma State, who I think is really good. You get Kansas State, but you get them at home. An opportunity, hopefully, for a night game if Baylor's able to beat Kansas State. And now, look, I am insane. I know this is insane. Right. The odds that Baylor's able to win the next 6 games are astronomical. So I can start myself at Kansas State, but I'll just give you the facts here. It's a home game against Kansas State, a home game against TCU, and then a road game against Texas. Out of the next 6 games, I think Baylor going 4-2 is quite reasonable. That's 7 wins, which at this point in the juncture seems pretty solid. If you win 5 of those, you're at 8-4, and it's a pretty admirable 8-4. If you win all 6, TCU, oh guys, I hate to say it. I hope that I'd be able to drive 1 point home on this show over the course of the last few weeks home. Just 1 point home that I really don't like TCU. That I can't stand TCU. But them winning the game against Oklahoma State was big because Baylor desperately now needs Oklahoma State to have 3 losses in conference play. And Baylor needs to beat TCU. So any team that Baylor would love for West Virginia to win as many games as possible. Just they start shaking some stuff up. Iowa State to upset a Texas or things like that. Baylor needs somebody else to have 2 losses, like a TCU or a Texas, and Baylor beat that team. The door is still there. I know that sounds insane, but think about it like this. Baylor right now, this season, is 1-2. The non-conference does not matter. 1-2 is not great, but 7-2 could at least, it's got you on the doorstep because it did last season, exactly what it did. Instead of losing to Oklahoma State and then a trash team late in the year, Baylor did the opposite this year. They lost to Oklahoma State quick, and they lost a trash team the next game. So now you got to go on your 6-game win streak, or your season it ends in 13 games and a Cheez-It Bowl, which I don't want to see the Cheez-It Bowl. Baylor in it against Florida State. Would be kind of fun, actually. But no, instead, hold on to your Big 12 title aspirations because they're still there. You're on the doorstep of that. Temper them, obviously, but the names are there defensively. The guys are there. The horses are there, and they're running offensively right now. There is an opportunity for optimism. Now, don't be blind with it. Don't use this responsibly. Don't go insane. But anything can happen. Anything can happen. I'll be your resident optimist today. I'll also tell you about BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is where the game starts. Number one source for football betting info this season. I lost money on college football this season. Not this season, this weekend. Sometimes I win, sometimes I lose. Sometimes you laugh, sometimes you cry. That's why you don't bet a lot. I try not to bet a lot, so I don't lose a lot. NFL, too. I usually do a lot of bet on the NFL. The NFL is a little bit easier to me. So college football, NFL, all that jazz. Default audio. I just realized I'm recording the audio for this video on my computer, so it doesn't sound anything like my microphone, but that's fine. Hope you guys liked it. BetOnline, though. It's where the game starts. Check it out. And let's hear from Dave Aranda.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys. I guess first of all, just a great job by West Virginia and Coach Brown. Their fight and their execution really showed up tonight. I thought to start the game we came ready to play. I'm disappointed, and I think we're all frustrated with just our execution, really at critical points. I thought there was a lot of good things. We could not make that next play. We could, whether it was we're up and we got to make a play to stop a drive, to kind of halt a momentum, emerging momentum. We never could do that, and there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. Whether it was alignment or assignment, and so a fair amount to clean up there. And then, I think the other piece that plays with it is we're still fighting the battle on special teams for improvement and for consistency and to really have that as a weapon for us. And so, that obviously showed up tonight as well. But in all of it, in all of the punches that we took, some of which were self-inflicted, I thought that guys continue to fight. So proud of that, and something to build off of. Take any questions you guys got.
Maybe any update on Blake?
No, both Blake and Squirrel went out with head injuries, and so I think they'll get looked at tomorrow, and we should have an idea then.
Hey, how did you feel like Kyron came in and handled things in that situation?
I thought there was a calmness with him, and there was I thought there was a strong presence with him in the pocket when he was able to kind of rear back and throw it. And I thought the offense really took to him. And so that was really good to see. I think, that last 2-minute drive kind of colors, the opposite view. They were working their flush rush, and that was affecting us. But I think prior to that, I thought he was able to stick his foot in the ground and really, really hammer some balls in with some really impressive throws. And so there's a lot to build off of with his throw game. Impressed with him.
Dave, what do you feel like it's going to take kind of turn things around here going?
I think we've got to continue to teach everything. I think tonight, and this is hard to say after a loss, but I thought we showed up wanting to be there. I thought we showed up wanting to fight. You could feel it in the locker room. You could feel it on the sidelines. That guys wanted to be there. They wanted to fight, and we had to really teach that. And there's a whole bunch into that. We have to teach. I have to do a better job of teaching how to finish and how to close out drives, finish drives on offense. We're missing the complementary football part, where if an offense gets something going, defense shuts it down, offense adds on even more. Right now, we're trading one score for another score, really 2 weeks in a row, and so we have to really finish that next play, that next drive. That's what's missing.
Dave, it looked like a lot of missed tackles on defense. Was that? You haven't had that issue really a lot.
Yeah, I think secondary-wise, our MO has been to play real thick alignments up front and two-gap, and then with our back end, really kind of bracket receivers and double receivers, and we were doing that tonight. And I think, they were completing passes into that, which a lot of folks up to this point have not. And so, into the teeth of the coverage, they were completing things. And so there's a whole lot in terms of just why that was occurring, whether it was misalignments and technique and or lack of rush. But then once that started to happen, then guys started to push and stress and try to do too much, and then that affected the run game. And so, I think that it starts with, if we're in a pass coverage and they're throwing a route into coverage, right, we have to execute so that doesn't happen. And then I think the other piece goes once the run game kind of starts to go, right, having everybody trust in doing their job so that guys to the right and left of them can do theirs. That was wilted away tonight.
Coach, did you feel like you got everything out of that bye week that you were hoping to get, or were there some areas that were lacking?
Well, you would love to have a win coming off of a bye, but I thought there was a lot of truth that was spoken, I feel, and there was a lot of work put into fundamentals, and things that you'd like to say would equate to a win, and it's awfully unfortunate that it didn't. But it really shows that there's much more work to do. And so I think for us to approach it from a teacher's perspective and really meet guys where they're at and get them to be at their best in a real kind of tough and critical time is everything right now. And so we're all about it.
That was Dave Aranda in the postgame press conference on Saturday. Tough, man. Losing that game like that is tough. But you have an opportunity, hopefully, to respond against Kansas this week. That's going to be most of the content on this show this week. Hearing Dave sad is just tough. But Baylor's right there with a chance to at least right the ship against the Jayhawks. 10-point favorites. Come back tomorrow. We're going to be talking basketball this week, too, because, basketball season is a thing and starts pretty soon. Baylor #1 team in the Big 12 preseason. This has been, always will be, Locked on Baylor.